أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Peace and salutations upon the beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the companions, upon the friends of Allah, and upon all the Muslim Ummah. So alhamdulillah, we've just recited our Masnoon Azkars, and while I was reciting, I seen a certain dua, and briefly inshallah we're gonna talk about this. So he says the dua in Arabic is Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith asli li sha'ni kulla wa la takilni la nafsi tarfat ayn. So he says the explanation to this is, O ever living, O eternal one, by your mercy I call on you to set right all my affairs, and do not place me in charge of my soul even for a blink of an eye. And now what happens here is that there's a lot of things in life which a person does which can ruin his life and the life of his families, his relatives, etc. And the Prophet ﷺ came to guide and advise people, especially how to stop a person from ruining his life and the life of his family members. So the Prophet ﷺ came and taught us about refraining from sin. So for a lot of people, refraining from sin is a burden. But if you really think about it, refraining from sin, it can be anything. Nobody is perfect. In life, people will commit sin. So when at the moment when you think that everything's okay for you, that's the time when Shaytan attacks you. When you think everything's going right for you, praying your namaz, you're doing your azkars, you're doing your zikr, you're doing your meditation, and whilst you're doing your sheets, everything's okay for you. You think everything's okay. But at the time when you think everything is okay, that's when he attacks. Then that's when everything is not okay. And the Shaytan and the nafs has ruined many people. For the Shaytan himself, the nafs got to him. And this is why this dua is so important. Wallah, don't leave me in charge of myself for even a blink of an eye. Because when that blink of an eye, if you're in charge, you will fail. For that blink of an eye, when you leave it to yourself, this is where you're going to fall. So Shaitan has come to many people, and when people thought that it was okay, that's when he attacked. And that's the time where you should be paying the most attention. For example, one example is a person, say he's done his eyes for 30 days, he's done his sheets. Now he's completed his 30 days, he's done it properly, not like, I think I've done it, This person knows that he's done it. He has refrained from the sins of the eyes, he has refrained from the sins of the tongue, and he has completed the 30 days correctly in the right manner. And then he relaxes, and that's the time when he starts to relax. 30 days he's paying attention. I want to get the sheets done, 30 days I'm gonna, like. Then after 30 days he starts relaxing. First day, after 31st day, well, I've done the eye sheet, yes, I've purified my eyes, I've purified my tongue. Then the second day, 32, then again he starts relaxing a little bit more, 33, 34, 35. I say after about 4 or 5 days, when he's not expecting, suddenly his eyes fall upon something. So he might, okay, at that time, refrain from it. Then the next day, worse things happen, and then suddenly it's just hit him so hard that he's fallen. Because he wasn't aware, like the 30 days, he was so aware of his eyes or of his tongue, but now after he's done the sheet, what happens is he starts relaxing. And this is where he fell, or he doesn't look after his tongue, and suddenly he's with his friends, and suddenly he's backbiting somebody. So these sheets are supposed to be your guideline for the rest of your life until you reach your grave, not just for 30 days. And this is where, when the sins come into our lives, this is where the person starts feeling weak. The things that he used to do before, for example, while he was purifying himself, and he was a lot stronger, and now he thinks he's purified, so what happens is he falls, and then it's hard for him to get back up. So the thing that happens is, as well, it's like the mashaykhs mentioned as well, that it's like if a person gives his mind, for example, he's not controlling his mind, and gives his mind to the shaitan, now the shaitan through his mind controls the whole body. Every one of us has a certain weakness. For example, some might be inclined. For example, if you wasn't practicing, what would you be doing? There's a certain desire within you. It's there, you've suppressed it because of the deen. You suppressed this desire because you you're practicing Muslim now. So you've suppressed that desire, but it doesn't mean that desire has completely gone. That desire is like a volcano. For example, the volcano, it's not like many places now, the volcano doesn't erupt. But then there comes a time, what happens is, one day, boom, just out of the blue, the volcano erupts. The same way the desires are, you cannot get rid of the desire, but it's suppressed. You're suppressing your desires. And any time it can just erupt. And then you might fall into that sin again. For example, many people, they try, and then they fail, then they get up, they try, they fail, then they get up, they try, they fail. That doesn't mean that you failed. That means that you have success. You know what I mean? And in the end, if you die like this, you pass the test. The ones that fail is the ones that commit the sin and they don't get back up. And they don't try, these are the people that fail in the end. But the ones who do fall into the traps, but they realize their mistake and they get back up, then these people ultimately in the end they'll be successful, because at the time when they commit, they've realized what they have done wrong. And so other people, they don't realize, they know they've done something wrong, but they just think that that's it, now I'm finished. But the person who realizes, no, there's an opportunity for him to get back up again, and the real meaning of repentance is when a person does commit the sin, he gets back up, he falls, he gets back up, this person will be successful in the end. So refraining, but ultimately we think we have to understand what is sin. So for us, at the moment, refraining from sin is a burden. We think it's a big burden, that refraining from sin, which for many people it is. Because, for example, if you want something, and you can't have, isn't it? You desire something but you can't have. So to stop yourself is like a burden, isn't it? You know, you want this but you can't have it. Why can't you have it? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said you can't have it. So you can't have it. So because of you stopping yourself from doing this, you feel yourself like it's a burden. Everybody, there is enjoyment in sin. There's enjoyment in sin, but the person won't get any peace in his heart. Even though after committing the sin, he won't find peace. So there is enjoyment. So why would people would love to do this? There's certain things that you can't do here, but you can do in Jannah, isn't it? There's certain things that we want here, but we can't do it. But these same things are made halal in Jannah. So why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us. This is a testing ground. You know, we are here as a testing ground, and we'll appreciate Jannah more. You know, for example, if we're born in Jannah and we were just enjoying ourselves in Jannah, then we wouldn't know what hardship is. We wouldn't know what refraining from sin is. So when a person, we wouldn't know how a person lives in poverty, how a person can't afford certain things, he wants something but he can't have. And then when he goes into Jannah, then he realizes, you know, this is truly a blessing from Allah. You know, that I didn't have this, and now I've got it. Like somebody who can't see, he was born blind, and then what happens is, they have like this special surgery, and they says, okay, we can bring your eyesight back. And then he gets his eyesight back. What happens is, he appreciates his eyesight. And while the person who's born with eyesight, he's not going to appreciate it, because for the rest of his life, he had his eyes. So same with Jannah. When the person from this world goes into Jannah, he realizes, you know, he realized the value of Jannah, you know, how special it was. So refraining from sin for us, we think, you know, it's a burden. But the Mashaykh is saying, for example, if a person is told to eat poison, but he says, it's burden to refrain from poison, I find it difficult to refrain from it. You know, if somebody says to you, okay, you know, have this poison, I say, no, it's, you know, I have to have the poison, it's too difficult for me to refrain from eating poison. But if he doesn't eat the poison, what's going to happen is going to benefit his body. Eating poison will ruin his body. So the Mashaykh are giving that analogy to people, like sin is going to ruin the soul, the person's soul. You know what I mean? Like for example, if a body, we have certain things in it. Like for example, we need to eat, and sometimes we go to the gym, we exercise, you know, and certain to stay fit and healthy. You know, and same way, if a person commits sin, what happens is his soul becomes weak. When his soul becomes weak, then he stops him from doing things. You know, when you know, you speak to somebody, oh brother, I feel weak. You know, brother, I don't feel like praying. Brother, my iman feels really low. Why does it feel low? Because there's something you've let inside your soul that's affecting it. You've done something wrong that's affecting you. You might have done it without realizing. It might have been even a bad thought against another person. And, you know, or the organs of the body is very easily to notice. The sins from the organ of the body is very easy, because you know you're doing something physically, you know you've done something wrong. But the sins of the mind and the heart, when you don't pay attention, suddenly it's committing sin and you don't even realize that it's committing sin. Having jealousy against somebody, having hatred in your heart for somebody, thinking bad thoughts of somebody, you know, straight away, boom, it's in your mind, you've not even realized. So these are things, they're like poison, ruining the person's soul. And the more he does this, the more it's going to affect him, and the more he'll become weak. And when he becomes weak, then he won't be able to do anything. You know, so this is what we have to understand. But when you look at the life of the friends of Allah, that even the halal things they would refrain from, in case, it led to sin. For example, one example we can give in this day and age is like, for example, weddings. Yeah. So, for example, there's a wedding, unless you know beforehand whether that wedding is a mixed wedding or whether it's segregated. Yeah. If you know that, then obviously you can make that decision there. But if you don't know that, and you're scared to ask, yeah, then even for example, if somebody was pious and righteous, what he would do is he would like think, I'm not taking the risk. If I go there, yeah, I'm not taking it. If I go there, then it's not segregated. Then my eyes can fall upon a woman, or something can happen. I can fall into haram. So then the friends of Allah, for example, in situations like this, they would say, put their safety first. You know what I mean? But how many times do we put our safety first? Sometimes we think, okay, we'll just go there and see what happens. And then even though, it's a mixed environment, even then, I'll just eat and go, because we can't leave the food, because the food's there. I don't want to waste the food in it. They paid the money for my food, so I shouldn't really waste the food. I'll just try and keep my eyes low and just eat the food and just go. But that's the way it is. Today's. So like food can be poison for the body, committing sins will be a poison for one's iman. So if a person gives you poison without you knowing and you eat it, then you'll become a martyr. So somebody gives you poison and you don't know it's poison and you eat it, you become a shaheed. But now if you eat the poison of sins and die, then the person can be thrown in a hellfire for a long, long time, where he can be punished very harshly. So a person knowingly committing sin and then he dies in this way, then he can be punished very harshly. So this is the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ, whose name is called Rahmatul lil Alameen. He is a mercy to every creation. So the Prophet ﷺ telling us about these sins and stopping us from committing these sins, is a mercy to us. You know what I mean? It's a mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Prophet ﷺ to tell us about these sins, stay away from it. So this is mercy. So it's like for us, like they say that it's like the Mashaykh are mentioning, another example is like a fish. There's like the older fish and the baby fish. And what happens is somebody throws in a line, a hook with some piece of food or bread on it, and the little fish, all it can see is the food. You know what I mean? And the fish says, you know what? I'm going for this food. But the elders who have wisdom and they've survived so long, they say to the youngest, don't go for the food. Don't go for the food. So what happens is the little fish, what they do is, what do the elders know? It's the same today, isn't it? You say to the youngsters today, stay away from sin. These lot are old, my dad, he's backward. He's from back home. He's from back home. What does he know? We've been born in this country, went to school here, went to college, went to university. We know better than our parents. They're not educated. They're from the villages. And this is what people say. But then when they fall and they go weak and something happens to them, they come crying back home. They go to their mother, this is what happened. Well, we told you from the beginning, you should have listened. I should have listened. And then again, another opportunity arises, then they do the same thing again. So little fish, the Mashaykh said, the little fish, he says, what do the elders know this? So he goes and eats the bread and he gets caught and he gets killed. So this is the same thing that happens to us. All we can see is what's in front of us. What's happening behind it, we don't know. What's happening behind it? Sometimes even money can come to us. Plenty of money can come to us, and we think, oh yeah, I've got money now, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. But what's behind it, you don't know, because that money can be a test for the person. It can be a blessing and a test, it can be both. So when a person gets tested, when money comes, when everything's going right for you, then people tend to forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They tend to forget because now they have everything. Now when the person was in need, well, who does he turn to? Because no human being on the earth is going to help this person out. If the person is in problems and the person doesn't have that much money and he's not rich, so who does he turn to? He turns to, Ya Allah, help me, Ya Allah. So this turning to Allah is communicating with Allah. So this turning to Allah is bringing your heart towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that means on a daily basis, you're communicating with Allah. On a daily basis, you're in the presence of Allah. So when you're making the dua, what is this? This is a presence, that you're in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So by not having certain things, you're bringing yourself in the presence of Allah. Now if you had everything, if all your bills were paid, you've got a nice car, you've got a house, everything, you've got big bank balance, what will happen? The person will forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He won't make dua to Allah. He won't be in the presence of Allah. Because now he has everything he wants. So what will he be looking towards? He'll be looking towards enjoyment. Even if it's halal, where he'll be looking towards, where can I take my family? I'll go on holiday. I'll do this, I'll do that. So now his life's busy with his business, with his money and his family life, and he forgets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he dies in this way. So these things are reality. So whatever situation you're in, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond your control, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you in this situation, then that situation is best for you at that given time. It can change any time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses for your life to change, but at that given time, that situation is best for you. So that time, all you should do is thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings. And for example, if you committed sin, then repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. And if you're in calamity, then be patient with Allah. Be patient that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you in regards to this. And if everything is going right, then give time for the deen. The shukr of Allah, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means to go out, not that, Allah's given you money, Allah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really means that money that you have to spend in His path, to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you time, the shukr of time is to go and give that time towards the deen. You understand? So the shukr, everything has a shukr. The shukr doesn't just mean saying thank you to Allah, but actually utilizing what you have in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is shukr. So, and refraining from sin, refraining from sin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to refrain from. If you refrain from the sin, then that's thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So sometimes the iman gets lost, other times it goes weak, or your good deeds get ruined. But we mentioned this, that anything that happens, there is a way out of this as well. So the Shaytan, this is the plan of the Shaytan. For us, we think, we think we're clever, people, you tell them to stay away from this, stay away from, but they think they're clever. But what happens is, the Shaitan knows many people like us. Where is Shaitan? What era is he from? At the time before Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. And where will his life end? Towards the end, when the life of everybody ends. Yeah? So he's seen many people like you and me before. You know what I mean? So we're not clever, We're not clever to say, okay, I'm clever, I can, I've come above Shaytan, this, that, and the other. Yeah. You're clever if you follow the teachings of the Mashaikhs and you act upon it, then you're clever. But when a person starts thinking, oh, he's clever, this, that, and the other. So what the Shaitan does, he makes a plan for each one of us. So he says, okay, so because your life is going okay now, so it doesn't mean that the Shaitan's not made a plan for you, but that plan can happen in 5 years' time. Let's plan this. So what was the dua when you said, Allah, don't lead me to myself for a blink of an eye. So any time during that 5-year plan, there's going to be a chance where that blink of an eye might come. That blink of an eye might come. So at that time, the Shaitan might attack you. So he's seen many people. He knows which buttons to press. He knows your weaknesses. He knows that, okay, at this time I'm going to press his button. And the Mashaikhs mentioned about these like drug dealers and stuff like this. They think they're very clever, selling drugs, and they think they're getting away with it, making vast amounts of money. Once there was like a documentary, and this woman was interviewing some drug dealers, and she was asking them, well, how much money do you make? And they're pulling out wads of money and showing her, on camera and stuff like this. And she said, oh, how do you feel if, your own, how do you feel about selling drugs? Like some children will take it as well. I said, I'm not happy with that, but what can I do? It's all a business. And then she said, well, how about if your own son took it? She said, oh, I would beat him up, for taking the drugs. So what happens is, these drug dealers, they think they're getting away with it, but then what happens is the Shaitan waits. Say 5 years, 10 years, he's making his money, he's enjoying life, he's bought his car, he's bought his house, this, that, and the other. And then the Shaitan goes and whispers into the ears, into the minds of the police. Why do you think they get, sometime or another, even the biggest drug dealer gets caught? And especially if the person is a Muslim, there you go. Then what happens is he gets locked up, he's got a wife and children at home, now he's locked up for 10 years, and then the Shaitan works on him when he's inside, and he gets up to no good and stuff like this. So these things, we think that the people who are going against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they think they're very clever, but even the Shaitan is against this person as well. You know what I mean? Shaitan doesn't have a problem with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The problem was with Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. You see? So the Shaitan knows many buttons to press. At the time when he knows the person's weak, then he presses that button. So even if a person commits a sin, he will find peace, enjoyment. He won't find peace, but he'll find enjoyment, but he won't get any peace in committing the sin. So it's like medicine. Yeah? Where a person, like doing good deeds, for the person it might be like medicine. Like for example, when we get told, do the amals, yeah? To even sit there for 20 minutes and do the zikr is like medicine. You find it so difficult. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha. After about 3 or 4 minutes, your phone starts coming out. La ilaha illallah, WhatsApp, okay, la ilaha, la ilaha. Yeah, we do tend to do that. Yeah, because it's like medicine, innit? It's like bitter, you're not enjoying it, but you carry on doing it because you know that it's good for you. And the medicine will, when a person is ill, it'll make him better. You know what I mean? So the person shouldn't stay away from his medicine that's been given to him. So that's in regards to the sin, that always be careful, to the minutest of details. You know what I mean? That to refrain. So anything, especially anything that is your weakness. For example, somebody doesn't drink alcohol, so his weakness isn't alcohol. Even if he walks into an alcohol shop, it's not going to affect him. So you know what your weakness is. So you have to be 100% aware, 100% focused that whatever happens, this is my weakness. I know what my weakness is. Yeah, this is whatever happens, I'm not going to. I have to be 100% careful in regards to my weakness. Even the slightest inclination towards that can affect a person, and especially when the person thinks everything's okay. You know, I'm doing my amals, I'm doing my zikr, I'm doing meditation, and the mashayikh saying that's the time he attacks you. When you get that one moment. So the second advice the Prophet ﷺ gave was in regards to saving your house, families being ruined, and barakah will descend upon your household. So if you do these things in your household, yeah, so if you do these things in your house, obviously you live with your parents, you live with your wife, you live with your children. But if you do these things, then your family will get ruined. If you stay away from these things, then you'll have barakah in your household. So look at what the Prophet ﷺ is, teaching us and helping us so much. So this is what the advice of the Prophet ﷺ given. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, whoever has this in his house is on the brink of being ruined. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned one hadith from Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, rahmatullah alayhi, from Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, that if Allah wants to do good to any families and blessings are going to come to them families, then the sign is, so when Allah subhanahu wants to do good to them families, and wants blessings to come into them families, and this is the sign that you have to do. If it's not there, then you have to try your hardest to make sure these things happen in your own household. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends kindness and gentleness into that household. So when there's kindness and gentleness amongst the family members, yeah, then blessings will come into the house. And when there's harshness, agitation, arguing and fighting, then the blessings leave the household. So these are the signs that the Prophet ﷺ given. That make sure that when you're living in your house, that there's whatever the situation, stay away from harshness, argumentation, fighting, agitation. Stay away from these things. You know what I mean? If you know that if you're gonna, talk to a family member and it's gonna lead to this, then don't talk about things that they dislike. Something's gonna wind somebody up. Why talk about them things and wind them up? Just try and keep the peace. If you keep the peace in the household, then you'll see the blessings. If there's harshness and agitation, then that's when the barakah gets lifted. So Mashayikh is saying many people in a household, many people living there, wrong things will happen. But it doesn't mean that, for example, for you to say something to somebody, it doesn't mean that you don't need to say harshly. You don't need to fight with the person to tell him this. So for example, if you say to somebody you're not happy with certain things, one is by shouting and screaming at the person, and the other is that you can say the same things and show your displeasure. How would the Prophet ﷺ show displeasure? The Prophet ﷺ, one of the ways is that they would remain silent, but you could see on the face, the color of the face would change, so that people know that the Prophet ﷺ, even though the Prophet ﷺ would remain quiet, people would know that the Prophet ﷺ is displeased. So we can do this as well. Or if you want to say something, if something's out of place and you need to tell somebody, but say in a way that sugarcoat it, and say in a way that doesn't cause an argument or fight or affects their nafs. Majority of the time it's nafs. You know what I mean? You say something to somebody, they don't like it. The nafs doesn't like it and it gets angry. Even if you're giving good advice, there's many a times by giving good advice it causes an argument. So from yourself you're thinking, oh yeah, Oh, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I was only giving him good advice. And he started, arguing back. Oh, brother, I know everything. Brother, I have this degree. Brother, I'm qualified. Brother, I have this, I have that. Yeah? But it's the nafs, it's hitting the nafs, you see. So then you think, okay, this person's temperament, this person's not going to accept it. In one of the books, it's mentioned that if you know 100% that the person accepts what you're going to say, then say it. Even if you have a doubt, then don't say it. Even if you have a doubt, the path of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that book, that's recommended for all the brothers and sisters to read on the tariq. In that book, it says, Imam Birgivi rahmatullah alayhi says in that book that if you know 100% the person is going to take your advice, then tell him. If not, just stay quiet. If you have a doubt that he's not going to accept it, then stay quiet, because it causes argumentation. And one of the mashayikhs mentioned that when a person argues with another person, it dirties the heart. And we know the story with the companions when the night of power was going to be revealed by the Prophet ﷺ. And then what happened at that time? It wasn't revealed, because the two companions, they had a disagreement on certain matters. So that wasn't revealed at that time. So you see, many blessings can get lifted because of this argumentation. So there's a mashaykh saying, have a plan. Don't just splurt out. You see something there and then, and you splurt it out. This is what happens, isn't it? You see something, splurt. Or you got your machine gun out, boom, boom, boom. Yeah? You start shooting straight away. Control yourself at that time. Don't say anything. Control. And make a plan on telling him. How can I tell him in the best manner? How can I tell him? Or don't we know the story of Hazrat Imam Hassan, Hazrat Imam Hussain radiallahu anhu? The two brothers, they seen somebody who wasn't making wuzu properly. So they needed to tell him, and what did they do? One of them made the wuzu and did it wrong, and they're asking advice for the person who was doing his wuzu wrong. And then he realized that he was making his wuzu wrong, So they making it as though, they don't know, even though they knew, but they make it as though they don't know, and they're asking for advice. So that can be one of the ways that you can ask the person in a question form. So, and one last thing before we finish, inshallah. And this is advice for, people who are looking to get married as well. So it's a good advice. And once a person came to Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu and said, I have a son and he hit me. Yeah? So a person came to Hazrat Umar and says, my son just hit me. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu felt quite bad that a father has been hit by his own son. So Hazrat Umar said, the son who hit you, why did he hit you? He says, I was going to the fields and we were discussing something and he hit me with a stick. So he says, okay, let's call him. Let's call the son. So the son comes to Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, the father's there. And he asks, why have you hit your father? Don't you value your father? He said, no. He turned around and he said, no. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu says, what is your mother like? So he said, my father chose my mother for her beauty and money, and she did not have any knowledge of the deen. So if she had this knowledge, if she had this knowledge, she would have taught him to respect the father. But because this person went for beauty and money rather than knowledge, so this is what happened. So he asked the father, have you taught him Quran or knowledge or done his tarbiyah in regards to how to behave in different situations? The father said no. So there, Hazrat Umar said, the situation is such that you didn't find him a good, knowledgeable mother, nor you did his tarbiyah. I think this is what happened. So as Umar says, you and him were going to the fields to work, and he wasn't taught the Quran. So he must have been singing along, and you tried to stop him from singing, and then he hit you with a stick. The father said, yes, this is what happened. It says, so like he hits the donkey in the field while he's working, hit the donkey, the same way, he didn't know any way to behave, and he hit you the same way. So this is your fault because you didn't do his tarbiyah. So sometimes our children, well, the ones who have, maybe this is the situation where they don't have done the tarbiyah, but then there's other situations as well that no matter how much tarbiyah you've done, but at the moment the shaitan's inclination is more towards that child. So, just to recap, barakah and blessings will descend and adopt in your household if you overlook the faults and teach gentleness to the family. So this is a matter of teaching as well. You know what I mean? First, you must overlook the faults, and second, you must teach gentleness to the family. Now, if somebody is angry at you and you get angry back, it's just a volcano erupting, World War III. So if somebody is angry at you, but you show calmness, eventually that calmness might rub off on that person, you know, in the near future. Don't look for some things like, for example, instant success. You know, things take time to develop, you know. So, that's it. And the Mashaykh say that look at the eagle, yeah, the eagle soars above the sky, and he's the king of all the birds. The eagle is up high in the air, and he's soaring away, and he's the king. And when he looks on the earth, everything looks small. Human beings look like ants. So they're saying keep your focus on the hereafter and this world, and his problems will look small to you. So if you focus more on the hereafter, then when you're in a situation where somebody's arguing over a little thing, for example, you know, food or whatever in the household, whatever people are arguing over, or then for you that matter will not be as high because your focus is mostly in the hereafter. So you'll overlook everybody's faults because your focus is in the hereafter. But if you look at the eye of an ant, you know, the ant is so small, and if you look from that point of view, then even a small plant would look like the world's biggest tree, you know. So that's what they're saying, that overlook. And even if a stone comes in front of the ant, he would think it's Mount Everest, you know. But this is what they're saying. So the friends of Allah are saying if the household is full of fighting and arguments and harshness, then it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time for the household will be destroyed. It's just a matter of time. And having gentleness will bring blessings. And you know, it's not what you say, it's how you say that matters, you know. So, and the other thing is, don't think sin is a burden, rather you should think that sin is a blessing. And don't leave yourself, you know, the dua that's in the Muslim Azkars. Always rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and keep yourself away from sin as much as possible by relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not that, oh, when you refrain from sin, don't say, oh, well, I did it through my own energy, my own strength. No. Every day that you stay away from sin, you should say, thank you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with your might and power, I was able to refrain from sin today. You know what I mean? So you're thanking Allah, and when you thank Allah more, Allah increases you in the blessing more. Allah will give you more energy and more strength to stay away from bigger sins and bigger temptations. You know what I mean? So we finish here. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.